watching and listening to give warning of rebellious thoughts. That was why, when Clennon spoke of north, south, and freedom in the same breath, Moril saw Lenina look round the hedges to make sure no one was listening. He found himself doing the same. But the hedges, though the leaves were already dusty, were still thin enough to see through. Nothing moved in them but birds. The only people they saw, for the next mile or so, were in the distance, planting vines on a hillside, until they came to where a road branched off to another vineyard. There, on the triangle made by the turning, a man was waiting. At his feet he had a huge round bottle half encased in a straw basket. He waved, and Dagna drew up. Olob turned his head and looked at the huge bottle with evident misgiving.
"Evening, Flind," said Clennon. "Is that our payment there, by your feet?"
The man nodded. He seemed disinclined to smile, though Clennon smiled broadly at him.
"I hoped it was," said Clennon. "Where's the passenger?"
Flind jerked a thumb. The passenger, probably in an attempt to keep out of the sun, was sitting behind the bottle in its shadow. He looked very hot, very untidy, rather discontented, and rather younger than Dagna.
"Help him into the cart,"
Clennon said to Moril. Moril did his best, but the passenger shook off his helping hand. "I can get him by myself," he said. "I'm not a cripple." He climbed in very nimbly and sat on the floor. The canvas cover was half up, and he seemed glad of its shade. Moril looked vaguely after him and hoped it was the heat that made him feel so disagreeable. He knew from bitter experience that someone around Dagna's age could make life very unpleasant if he was steadily disagreeable for some hundreds of miles. This could be worse than the woman last year. He looked at Brid, who made a squeezed lemon face back. Clennon and Flind, meanwhile, were heaving the huge jar through the tailgate of the cart. It took a good deal of effort, and a lot of space once it was in. Olob almost laid his head backwards over his shoulders in an attempt to show his strong disapproval of it. "Are you really taking our payment in wine?" said Lenina.
"Can you think of a better one?" said Clennon. "My dear girl, there's only beer to drink in the north. Count your blessings. We'll broach it this evening, shall we? Or would you rather wait until we're going through Markind?"
"Oh, this evening," said Lenina, smiling a little. Clennon latched the tailgate, waved to Flind, and they went on. Olob made a very expressive business of getting the cart underway again. Brid was quite sorry for him, straining in front of all that extra weight, but everyone else knew that the cart was so well sprung and greased that Olob could hardly feel the difference. Dagna made no bones about flicking him with the whip. "What a lazy horse!" exclaimed the passenger.
"They're often the wisest ones," said Clennon.
The passenger, realizing he had been snubbed, put his chin on his knees and sighed gustily. Brid and Moril took turns at eyeing him through the gap in the tailgate. He was burlier than Dagna, though he was younger and much the same height. But he was more remarkable looking, because he was a queer combination of dark and fair. His hair was tawny fair, and there was a lot of it, like a lion's mane, only rather more untidy, and his eyes were a pale blue-green. But his eyebrows were thick and black, and his skin very brown. His nose put them in mind of an eagle. He still had that fed-up look, which they decided must be due to more than the heat. "Perhaps his grandfather's dying and they sent for him and he doesn't want to go," Brid speculated. Moril was content to leave it vague. He simply hoped the passenger would not vent his annoyance on them. A mile or so further on, Clennon said,
"We haven't got your name, lad. There's a lot in a name, I always think. What is it?"
"It's Colan," said the passenger. "With a K."
"Even with a K, it's not half long enough for me,"
said Clennon. "Well, what do you expect me to say? It's really my name," the passenger protested.
"I like longer names,"